Hello, I am Jinhoo from We Learn to Share, and in today's video, we are going to talk about the two chapters of AP Microeconomics, Resource Allocation and Economic Systems and Production Possibilities Curve. So, every economy faces three major questions within above, and it is because the four factors of production, which we talked about the last video, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, are limited, which means that we have to choose between what will we produce and how will we produce and who will own the produced goods and services. So let's just take a closer look at every question. The first question, what will be produced, talks about what will we choose to produce with limited factors of production. So let's say, for example, we can choose to produce more food, we can choose to produce more apartments, we can choose to produce more clothing, we can choose to produce more basketballs and even more. Now, once we chose what will we produce at the first question, now we have to choose how will we produce. So for example, if we decided to produce some clothing, we have to choose, are we going to weave the clothing with human resources, or are we going to use some machinery to produce the clothing? So this is a very important question. And the final question is, who will own the produced goods and services? So once we decided how will we produce the goods and services and we produced all, now we have to divide the produced goods and services, and we can choose to divide them equally, or we can choose to provide them to those who can have the ability to purchase the produced goods and services in the market, or we can choose to give the goods and services to those who need the goods and services the most. And the types of economy actually differs from how they answer these three questions above. So let's just take a look at three types of economic systems. The first type of economy is a command economy, in which the government takes full control of what will be produced, how will be produced, and who will own the produced goods and services, and even prices in some types of command economies. The second type of economy is a market economy, in which the market decides what will be produced, how will we produce, and who will own the produced goods and services. So when we talk about the market decides, it isn't like the market itself is a type of force, but instead the interactions inside the market between the suppliers and the demanders force the suppliers to produce something and force the suppliers to produce something in a more efficient manner. And usually in the market economy, the people who can pay for the goods and services own the produced ones. And the third type of economy is a mixed economy, which is basically a combination between the command economy and the market economy. So in a mixed economy, governments will make some types of decisions and markets will make some types of decisions. So it is basically a very broadly used type of economy in many countries, including the United States of America and South Korea and more. So in a mixed economy, we have the balance between the power of the government and the power of a free market. Let's talk about the production possibilities curve from now. And let's say that I just picked 10 apples from my orchard, and now I have to decide from producing some apple cider or producing some apple pies. And this table shows all the possible combinations of ciders and apple pies that I can produce. So I can choose to either produce 10 cider canes or 5 apple pies, or I can choose to maybe produce like 6 cider cans and 2 apple pies. So basically this is all the possible combinations. And this is a very interesting fact. As soon as I decide to produce 2 less cider cans, now I can produce 1 more apple pie. And if I decide to produce 2 more cider cans, then now I have to produce 1 less apple pie. So what this means is that the opportunity cost of making an apple pie or maybe making an apple cider is constant in this type of production possibilities table. So the opportunity cost of making an apple pie in this case is going to be 2 cider cans. As soon as we produce 1 more apple pie, we have to give up producing 2 cider cans. And from the opposite section, if we decide to produce 2 more cider cans, we have to give up producing 1 apple pie, which means the opportunity cost of producing a cider can is going to be half of an apple pie. Now, the table we've seen before is talking about a table in which the opportunity cost is constant. So, no matter whether we choose to produce one more from 0 to 1 apple pies or from 3 to 4 apple pies, the number of cider cans that we have to give up are equal to cider cans. But in this case above, this case shows an example of a non-constant opportunity cost. So if we decide to produce one more car from 3 cars to 4 cars, we have to give up producing 80 balls. But if we decide to produce one more car from 4 cars to 5 cars, now we have to give up 70 balls, which means the opportunity cost of producing a car is not constant, but it actually matters on how much of cars are we going to produce. And usually in most types of choices and opportunity costs, the opportunity cost is non-constant, which means the production possibilities table is usually going to be like the production possibility table above instead of the one behind. Now, this is the final concept that we have to understand. The production possibilities curve, which is basically a graph which shows all the possible combinations of two goods and services that we can produce. So this is a graph. This is a production possibilities curve about the non-constant opportunity cost table that we saw at the last page. And you can see that if we decide to produce 5 cars, we can't produce any balls. And if we decide to produce something like 3 cars, we can produce something like 150 balls. And now you can see some written like efficient, not feasible, and feasible but not efficient. So what does these mean? Let's take a look at efficient first. When a point on the production possibilities curve is efficient, it means that the society or the economy is using its max capacity to produce. It is at the most efficient state of producing. So, for example, in this point of 4 cars and 80 balls, we can't decide to produce more balls than 80 balls if we decide to produce 4 cars, which means that the society or economy is producing at its max capacity. And also in this case, if we decide to produce 1 car, we can't produce more than like 300 balls, and the society is producing 300 balls, so it is at its max capacity and it is very efficient. However, this point above is considered not feasible because we can't simply produce something like 4 cars and 350 balls. Because as you see, if we decide to produce something like 350 balls, we can't produce any cars. But in this point, we have to produce 4 cars with 350 balls, which is actually impossible or not feasible. And this final point is feasible but not efficient. So in this point, we produce something like 1.8 cars with 80 balls. However, we see at the production possibilities curve that if we decide to produce 80 balls, we can produce 4 cars at its max. So producing 1.8 cars aren't actually very efficient. We are not producing at our max capacity. So this point is feasible, yes, we can produce, but it is not efficient. Yes, we would not choose to rather produce this. And a very interesting point of most possible production possibilities curve is that the curve is not straightforward, but it is rather bold out of a drawing mistake. So usually a production possibilities curve is going to look very bold out, which is because some resources are not interchangeable between the two types of goods and services we decide to produce. So let's say, for example, if we decide to produce 3 cars and 150 balls, the most skilled workers who can produce cars can stick to producing cars, and most efficient resources that can be used to produce balls can stick to producing balls. But as soon as we decide to produce some point like this, 5 cars and 0 balls, the most skilled workers and the most efficient resources that were used to produce balls now have to produce cars, which means that they cannot be efficient as they used to while producing balls. And that is why the production possibilities curve is looking bold out. As soon as we decide to produce a higher quantity of a certain product in So for example, if we decide to move our production possibilities curve point from here to here, the opportunity cost of producing this quantity A is going to be higher compared from producing from here to here. And this is a final concept that we have to understand: the economic growth. So the production possibilities curve is not constant, which means that as soon as the economy develops or the technology develops or whatever, we can produce something above, something that is over our production possibilities curve now. We can produce in points which were not feasible before. Let's say, for example, we developed a new technology which we can produce balls more efficiently, and this is like now we can produce 420 balls at its max if we decide to produce no cars. And now the production possibilities curve is going to shift from here to here. And now we can produce points like this, which were considered as not feasible in the production possibilities curve before. And an important point is that, let's say, for example, if only the technology of producing balls develop, the max capacity of producing cars cannot increase because any technology of producing the cars has not developed, only the quantity of balls has developed. So this is a very important point to understand. So in today's video, we talked about the resource allocation, economic systems, and production possibilities curve. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to this channel, and feel free to add comments in this video, maybe questions or some things that you want to talk to me. So thank you for watching, and I will come back after 2 weeks with my next video of AP Microeconomics.